this thing here, which was all the different settings you could use either for channel 1 or channel 2. So if you want it to sound like a Vox, they tell you how to dial it in. If you want to sound more like a Plexi, they tell you how to. And this is just like the beginning. This is just like introduction. So if you think about it, it's almost like they were giving you presets for an analog tube amp. Who did that back in the 90s except Rivera? Not that many.
Not that many. And I think you might have just answered the question, like, what is the Rivera sound? It's whatever you want it to be.
Bingo.
You know?
That's why I was asking you earlier, like, what do you think the Rivera sound? And the reason why I was asking you that is that it dawned on me yesterday while I was playing with the amp that if you... I know it might be like a stupid example, but I see kind of like Vox, Dumble, Marshall, and Fender as, like, if you look at it like a set of coloring pencils, right? You get a small box, you have 10 colors, and you can do a shit ton with these colors, right? You can blend them to create new colors, if you will. I see this Rivera as like a big Prismacolor, like 120 pencils with different shades of purple and gray and all this stuff. That's what that is, in my opinion. It's like, you get it. It doesn't have a foundational sound. It has the DNA of a Fender or a Marshall, and you can go from there and tweak it to your heart's content.
Yeah.
That's how I see this particular amp. Now, I don't have a whole lot of experience with Rivera because it's the first one I own and the first one I played.
Yeah.
But yesterday, while I'm going through it, I'm like, okay, if I don't use my head properly here, I'm going to get really frustrated because I can't dial in a tone. So what was the intention? What did they want to create with this amp? And this is made for the professionals. It's not made for a geek like me who just like did not play on Celine Dion's fucking album back in '89 and whatever. I'm just some dude. I did some touring. I played a shit ton of shows. I did some recording sessions, but not as a professional. I didn't do it for a living. Guys who were doing this for a living, it was more like, hey, okay, so we're going to hire you for a session. You come into the session. And back in those days, like I remember hearing about musicians who would come in with a trailer filled with amplifiers and guitars, and they would have them all stacked out. And then the producer would be like, yeah, I'm not liking that tone. Yeah, what do you want? I don't know, something different. Can you give me something a little breathier? And then the guitar player would grab another guitar, change the settings. Well, you can't keep switching amps like that because those were big amps. But if you had something like this, you could tweak a few knobs. You like this better? Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Cool. You don't have to dick around with different amplifiers and mic positions. You can just dial in what you want. That's what that is made for, or at least that's what I think this was made for. People who are there, they don't have time to fuck around. I need that tone. Well, yeah, you want it to sound like a Vox? Well, they already showed you how to do it. Dial it in. I want something more like the Beatles, or I want something more Jimi Hendrix. You can do it. And that's what that is. It doesn't have a sound. It's whatever the fuck you want to dial into it. Of course, there's a few things it can't do. Like if we look at more modern metal, like Gent and all that, that's not going to do it. But if you're looking at like 80s and 90s rock, maybe even some like early 2000s metal, you could do it. Like you could dial in that tone, or worse to worse, if that's not enough gain for you, throw a tube screamer in the front of it and there you are.